Everybody heard it and everybody consents?
Uh,
Oh, good. Here comes Brenda as well. Hi, Brenda. We're being recorded. Probably most of you know everybody here, but I thought we'd just take a quick second to introduce ourselves. So I'm Jennifer Collins. I'm the Director of Operations / Marketing here at Michigan CASA.
Not
And
anymore.
well, I still am until Friday the 15th. So I heard my name was invoked at the meetings at the one that Michelle does, the recruitment. There we go, retention.
Mhm.
So anyways, I got a panicked email from Kelly Kucinich, who had been out of town. So, all right. Hey, Vicki, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Vicki Price. I'm the CASA supervisor of the Muskegon County CASA program.
Awesome. Jen and Allison.
Hi, Jen Weber and Allison Brown from Grand Traverse County.
Woohoo. Jamie Gorby.
Yes, I'm Jamie Gorby, Director for Montcalm CASA.
And Melanie.
Hi, I'm Melanie Catamo. I'm CASA Program Director of Livingston County.
And Stephanie Barone. Sorry, I saw you starting to talk. There's two Stephanies.
I know. I was looking around this way.
Stephanie Brony, Montcalm CASA Volunteer Supervisor.
And Carrie, please.
Carrie Frederick, Program Manager at CASA of Kent County.
Awesome. Raquel, you and all your group there.
So I'm Raquel Brace. I am the Program Manager for Barry, Eaton, and Ingham. And I have our advocate supervisors, recruiting and training supervisor, and intern here. Do you want me to say their names?
No, they'll just know that box is all the group there from CASA for Kids. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Lauren.
Lauren Miller, CASA Manager for Allegan and Van Buren counties.
Awesome. And Chris.
Chris BZ, CASA Case Manager for Oakland County.
And Brenda.
Brenda Baker and Baki, Director for Oakland County CASA.
And Hannah.
I'm Hannah Connie. I'm one of the coordinators for Ottawa County.
Awesome. And the other Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie Sheeler, Executive Director of CASA of Kent County.
And Erica.
I'm Erica Bollinger, Executive Director for Cass County CASA.
Awesome. And Leah.
Hi, Leah Rennig, the other CASA coordinator from Ottawa County.
Perfect. Did I miss anybody? Okay, good. Good. So, quick thank you to all of you for joining us. I am going to, let's see. I have a poll that I'm going to put out just to kind of get a feel for it right now, which is basically how comfortable are you with Optima? And, you know, I tried to, can you all see the poll? Okay. I tried to run the gamut from like, you know, I've never heard of this. This is the first time I've ever heard of it to like, I'm, you know, super trained and I feel comfortable with pulling reports and, you know, all those good kind of things. So, there's no right answer. There isn't. No, I'm just kidding. There's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. Hopefully you've at least all heard of Optima by now. So awesome. It looks like all right. Perfect. Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful just to kind of know where you guys are actually feeling your own comfort level, which is great. There's one other poll and this is specific, please. Let me get out of that one. Give me the other polls. All right. I guess I have to share those results first. All right. There were the results from this one. So we're in pretty good shape. All right. Why will it not let me do the next one? Come on. Here we go. This one is just for executive director, which is pretty much all of you, executive directors or CASA supervisors, depending on your position. So basically, do you have Optima training as part of your onboarding for new CASA volunteers? Do you have that set up? Is that something I didn't think of that, but I'm adding it now, or we should be doing that? Hopefully we'll get a bunch of yeses, or you're thinking, I didn't think of that, but I need to get that added now.
We've noticed that it's a lot more helpful to wait to do an Optima training until a volunteer actually gets their first case, because otherwise there's nothing really in there. So
Yeah,
we've
no,
just been waiting till assignment.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's not part of like their 30-hour, right? Like their 30-hour training. It's not any part of that, but you have some type of onboarding process for them to learn the system. Great point, Hannah. Awesome. Okay. Just wanted to get those couple things out of the way and just kind of get a feel for it. Again, you all received the Optima Best Practices Manual. Again, I always love to thank the work group who helped on it, which was Raquel, Rachel, Robin, Jamie, Carrie, and Kate Rendell. So I thank all of them for all their work again. There could be some errors in there, right? Like this is like Apple. This is the Best Practice Manual 1.0. As you guys see things like this doesn't make sense, or oh my gosh, what a typo, or whatever the case may be, let me know until I'm here, or let the next person know, and we'll make those updates as needed. So this will be a working document. Hopefully we'll get it really honed in really well to where there won't be a bunch of things that need to be corrected each year. But if you see something, please say something, because that's the only way we can get those things corrected. This is not a how to use Optima manual. This is the Michigan CASA Best Practices Manual. So there's a big difference. So this is not meant to be totally inclusive of how to use the whole system. I mean, that's through Optima, and they have all of those types of things and the training and the onboarding that happens. So I just wanted to be clear. I know some people were like, well, where's the part on this, or where's the part on this? We pick and chose the particular things that were important to Michigan CASA, especially when it comes to reporting. So be sure that if you do have questions, that you refer to our best practices manual first. If that doesn't answer it, I was thinking of possibly starting an Optima, kind of like our Google groups, our Michigan CASA Google groups, or the McPat group, having just an Optima group where then people could chime in and say, hey, this is specific to this. Does somebody have that? Or can you help me with this? Again, we can use within our whole network. And then if that doesn't work, make sure that you know how to, put a help ticket up. And be sure to use the training. The training button has live webinar trainings on tons of things on Optima. So if you're still not great on some certain basics, they have a whole back to basics portion, and then they have a whole beyond the basics portion. So please be sure to utilize those resources. Each program, signed a contract with Optima, even though we're the ones paying for it. But so you're more than welcome to reach out to them and help ticket them, and make them answer and jump through the hoops that you want them to jump through. So do that if you need it. All right. I am going to bring up the manual here. All right. Notice version 1.0. I did put that on there. Are all the hyperlinks working for everybody? Have you tried those? I mean, I've triple checked them. Those hyperlinks are working for everybody so far? Yes, or a hands up, thumbs up? Yes? Good. Okay, cool. I think as you'll see, the introductions, acknowledgements, recommendations for reports, those are just our recommendations. This CASA reporting schedule, we will be polling on the 20th of each month. So that should allow you to get all your information in by the 19th. So for the previous month. So if we're pulling June's information, if we're pulling July's information, everything should be, entered in. If we're pulling June's information, everything should be entered in by July 19th. Pardon me. And that's how we'll do it for each month. Lookup tables. These were those long and arduous process that you all went through, and I appreciate it. There are still going to be a few changes, and I will tell you about those, and it will make sense when we get there. So these were broken up by cases. So anything that has to do with cases, what those lookup tables are, hopefully, why it matters. Why do these reports matter? Hopefully then these useful reports kind of tell you what the name of it is and what those reports are, and then how to find it, what you click on to be able to go find and dig in to find those reports. Again, if you find something that isn't quite right eventually, let us know. I feel like maybe this is the part where there could be a few errors possibly. Please let us know so that we can get any of those corrected. So case release reasons. I will indicate on here on this particular one, this lookup table could apply to a volunteer, a supervisor, or any type of associated party. So this basically provides a snapshot, of that the case release reasons. So I'm just going to scroll quickly through some of these. If there's something you really have a question on, holler, but we're going to go through this kind of fast. There's a few of them that I definitely want to get to. So hopefully this is kind of when deciding this referral source, kind of go through your 1, 2, 3 here of deciding where that source came from. I want to find. This is an interesting one. So this one is the eligibility status or special classification. So this is kind of a self-reported area for your guys' use, for your local program use. What would make sense for you is if you possibly have a grant, from United Way or from some other entity where maybe you have to keep track of, the LGBTQ children or teens or young people that you're taking care of. Or maybe there's something that has to do with, with drugs, anything that might have a specific, marker for it or data point that you want to do. You can go in and make these special classifications for yourself to make your tracking and reporting really easy for yourself. So that's nothing that we're making you do, but that could be really helpful for some other, for other grants. Is there anybody using this particular one right now who have set that up and used it for that reason? No? I think, Raquel, have you guys used that?
Yeah, we do use that one.
You do use that one. Okay. So if that's something maybe that you want to look into, Casa for Kids would be a great place to kind of maybe pick their brain a little bit about that. So you'll see on a lot of these that you'll say that this lookup table is locked and includes the following categories, and it tells you what they are. These are not quite locked yet, but they will be locked in the future. And for these petition types, we just have child neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. Of course, you can click as many as makes sense for you. And then in the notes area would be a great place if you need to make any particular special notes about those. So.
Jennifer, got a question.
Yes, please.
Oakland County regarding the petition types.
Yes.
Once in a while, we get one that is simply educational neglect. 9 times out of 10, it does turn into other things. It's basically truancy issues, and they're usually written or submitted by the legal team in the public school district. But every once in a while, we'll get one that is educational neglect.
Interesting. Okay, my Optima team, feedback on that, ideas for that?
I think that we didn't add that because most of us didn't assign to ed neglect. I know we don't in Montcalm County.
Yeah.
But I think that's the rationale for not having that listed, but maybe that needs to be listed.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me when I came into Oakland County because I've never seen a petition in the other county I worked at for truancy. That was just always dealt with the courts. But in Oakland County, they do file petitions. Not a lot of them. But I think right now I have 2 that started as educational neglect. And then, of course, as the investigation continued, we found substance abuse, DV, I mean, a lot of other things, and the petition was amended, but it did start with educational neglect.
Any other counties have that?
We've gotten them, but we've not been assigned to any of those. I've seen a couple of them pass through my desk.
Okay. Thoughts on how Oakland should handle this? Or what are you doing right now, Chris and Brenda?
Well, I haven't spent what I did with the 2 cases I have was I marked it as child neglect with explanation that it was educational.
That was going to be my my suggestion too, would be that.
I think for statistical purposes and reporting, I think that'll suffice.
And that might be, again, one of those special classifications because you guys have that you guys maybe use the area that we just talked about and, being able to keep track of that in another way.
Sure.
So, all right. All right, here we're getting to, then we're into demographics. Again, this table will be locked. A lot of these align obviously with National CASA, values, which you all got. So these should be pretty self-explanatory. Employment status, again. Race, this got really cleaned up, which was really good. Rachel, if you would please, is Rachel there, Raquel?
Just stepped out, but I can grab her. She's
Okay. And you might be able to help this too. And maybe we show it on the front end. So this Hispanic or Latino of any race, this got listed in the dropdown as a dropdown. And quite honestly, we know that there's that checkbox on the front end of Optima where you click for Hispanic. And that's actually, which Rachel and I had a conversation on, and I want to have her clarify it again, that is where National CASA is pulling that data from, not necessarily from this listing in the drop down.
Rachel is here now.
Hey, Rachel. Just
Yes.
talking about, how you and I had the conversation on the race lookup table and how we left the Hispanic or Latino in there. And that's, that's not necessarily the proper spot. It is, but isn't. So it was there as a drop down from National CASA. Yet on the front end of Optima, we have that checkbox. And we want to make sure that their people are using the checkbox for Hispanic because that's where National CASA is pulling that data from. Is that correct?
Correct. So this should actually read, and I apologize, I didn't catch this when we were going this should say you must check the Hispanic box if applicable, because that is where National CASA pulls that data from. If you do both, that is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
It says may, it should say must.
Must.
If you check both, that's fine. It's gonna actually make your tracking easier. But the way that National CASA pulls data, they're pulling the Hispanic specifically because of how we used to do research from that Hispanic box, and then everything else from the dropdown. So if you're only using the dropdown, they're not gonna pull the Hispanic data on your reports. Does that make sense?
Yes, and we will change that to must up at the top for the checkbox.
So as someone who's not in Optima, this would confuse me. So I'll share this just for a new person. When it says select the race for each individual volunteer, you must check, it's gonna say you must check the Hispanic box. The Hispanic box right here below in this dropdown, or the Hispanic box that you ran into before?
Yes, Raquel, it might be a good idea if we can share your screen now and maybe show where this is at physically on the front end of Optima. Great question, Stephanie.
yeah.
Nope, it's perfect, exactly where we're doing this.
Because I figured that's what you meant. But a new person might need clarification.
Yeah. And it could be maybe that we add a screenshot. We thought about possibly adding a screenshot portion onto this with that, with this so that you could physically kind of see where it's at.
My other question is, can you check more than one race in this dropdown? So if someone is Black and Hispanic, could you check both of those, or is this strictly check one only?
No, then I would check 2 or more races.
Oh, even though Black
I'm
is their
sorry.
race and Hispanic is their ethnicity.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you said Black and Hispanic, did you not?
I
So
did.
then, yeah, then you can, actually, I'm not quite sure on that one, Stephanie. Let's, on the front end, can you share, Raquel? Let's see.
Sorry, we were muted. I'm gonna
Nope.
explain really quickly and then we're gonna visually show you. For
Awesome.
those, this is the analogy I want to use. For those who are used to grant writing, old school grant writing or old school research, before we used to say your ethnicity is either white or Hispanic and your race is all these other things. Optima and National CASA still pull their data that way, even though it's outdated and many of us are advocating to have that change. So we have to make sure that this aligns with how National pulls their data, because all those auto reports that we so conveniently are able to pull out of this, if we don't put it in that way, they're not going to be able to pull, because that's how they're pulling the data. So yes, to answer your question, Stephanie, you're answering 2 different questions. Are you white or Hispanic? One question. Next question, what's your race? And we left Hispanic in there as an option so they can select that again if they would like to, but they still have to answer the other question.
Okay.
And it's not pretty and it's not, you know, but Rachel's exactly right. These are things that we wanted to have changed and we don't like all the wording that's in here, right? You know, and, but we have to align with what National CASA is doing and how they're polling.
So when you look at this, you'll see there's a box, checkbox right above race that says Hispanic. So when you're used to the old research and data, what this question used to read was.
Here we go. There we go. Can everybody see this now on the front end? Sorry, I was still sharing. So, okay.
Yeah, you're good. Are you Caucasian or Hispanic, right? That's the old question everybody used to get asked. That's what this is a remnant of. So that's the first question. And then part 2 question is your race. So you can duplicate and put that in twice if you'd like, but it's not going to pull for National CASA. So that's, as you can see in ours, we don't have it because it's not going to pull for National CASA.
And you have Caucasian when it should be white. Oh, this is your test one. That's why it's. I was like, and multiracial. I'm like, I know you guys have all yours right. Okay.
But why did you say it should be white instead of Caucasian? White isn't a race, Caucasian is.
I know. Right? That is the way, again, National CASA pulls it that way. So our data has to be that way. Eventually, yeah. And this is their test, Raquel's and CASA for Kids. This is their test site here. Okay. And so that's why some of those drop downs aren't correct and stuff, but we're just using it for a visual today.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah, we use this for training because it has no identifying information. I don't know if you see our cases are all cases from the National CASA training. You can see the green case, the red case. If you use the training, those are the cases. So we actually use this for our training. With our new volunteer training, show them how to enter a contact log and then have them put in all of their actual training hours for their pre-service training in Optima as they go through the training. So anyway, that's why not all of our drop downs are correct, because it's just a training website that we use.
So you start training your volunteers from the beginning of the training?
Yeah, we give them a Optima login on their very first day. Everyone goes in there, they enter their hours, and then we use this for each case study. They go in and enter a contact log at the end
Wow.
of the case study as a practice for using this.
Just curious, has this scared anybody off?
Has it scared anybody off?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
No, not at all.
Okay. Because you know,
Yeah.
you have individuals who are not tech savvy and all of that stuff. And okay.
Yeah, we offer a lot of hands-on support. We give the
Mhm.
opportunity for people to come in the office if they want help or walk them through it.
Okay.
But yeah, we do it together from the beginning.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Sorry, I
Thank
got
you.
us off track of race. Sorry.
You're good. So Raquel, I'm going to have you stop sharing a moment and I'll bring back up the manual. Awesome. Okay. This is one that I have noticed some errors on, or some issues on the back end, is final placement type and placement type. So placement type is where the child is currently placed. So that is a foster home, a group home, an institution, whatever those might be. The final placement, and again, these, Optima doesn't make them that much different, in their wording. This is where the child is placed at the end of the case. Where at the end, where are they for their final placement? And on some of the reports, I see those two have gotten mixed up. So if that's a definite one that we want to have people checking on, is this final placement type and placement type. If you've gotten those switched around, you'll have to get them switched back to the right way.
So in Kent County, some of our kids are placed in fictive kin care. And it's not the final placement, but they're just placed there as a placement.
Okay. And so you would want to probably put other and then specify what that is.
Okay.
And again, if we see that coming up, Carrie, again, that's one of those things that I think can start to ebb and flow, and we get input on. And
Is that different than a relative foster home?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it could be like a friend, a family friend or something like that. And they just refer to them as a fictive kin.
Yeah, we would consider that a relative foster, because it's fictive, but a relative foster placement.
So just use that one.
That's what we do. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what we would do.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, but in the end, in the final placement, is relative and fictive different? Because if it's different in the final placement, it should also be different in the temporary placement. So here you have in the final placement, adoption, relative, and what does fictive kin mean in final placement? Fictive kin guardianship, fictive kin adoption. What are the words fictive kin mean there?
And this is locked. Just help me remember anybody else on the work group. This is not. These are not.
I think that that's a good point. Fictive kin.
Nope.
Yeah. Is it a adoption?
Is it a guardianship? Like, what does
No.
fictive kin mean right there?
Does it mean
That's a good
pretend
point.
kin, a friend of the family who is not a relative, but is a friend of the family, is able to provide placement?
Right,
But
but if it's the final placement, is it a guardianship? Is it an adoption? Or are they just hanging out there with no legal status?
Well, generally, you're not going to have fictive kin as a final placement. If that child is in a fictive kin placement and that case is closed, it's usually going to be closed under guardianship or something on that level. So you're right. That's not going to be a final placement for anybody. Well, I guess technically it could be, because if they get guardianship, they are physically still with that fictive kin.
Right,
But
then we wouldn't know if we're supposed to
I would
check
put it under
guardianship or fictive
I would put it
kin.
under guardianship, right,
Right.
versus fictive kin.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of sounds like fictive kin could be removed from final placement because adoption or guardianship is gonna trump that.
Right.
Something has to be done for them to be left in the fictive kin
Right.
place at the end of their reign.
Okay. Perfect. Noted.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Should, if we're gonna change that, then should relative be, kin or fictive kin?
Up right here, you're talking about?
Yeah. So there is a place for that within adoption or within placement.
Or within guardianship?
Yeah, I don't know if people need to track that or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, you check guardianship because you can have a guardianship that is equivalent to adoption, where it can be granted and then the case is closed after 6 months.
So we're thinking maybe adoption relative / fictive kin. Right here, correct?
I think that we
How
will
do you know?
want to say or.
I'm sorry.
I think we may want to say or relative or fictive kin.
Then it should probably match in foster care where it says foster care relative or fictive kin. I'm
Agreed.
in this last, but I know that they need to be parallel.
On the next page you're talking? On
Yes, they need to
on
be,
this one.
yeah, they need to be parallel. So then would it be foster family home relative or fictive kin? Like they need to be, the two need to be parallel with each other.
Yep, I see what you're saying. Got it. Let's see.
Jennifer, I might be remembering this incorrectly, but I believe that when we were creating these, we based this off of the National CASA annual report.
You know what? I was just
Yeah.
thinking that.
I think that's why we selected what we selected, and that even though it didn't make sense, that's what we have to report on. So that's why we chose these.
You're
Well, and I'm
right.
just, and it's locked. Yeah, and it's locked right here. And typically the locked ones were things that had to do with National CASA, and this is locked as well. So again, I think these are things
becomes
that
a matter of how do you choose to use this particular area. So would you look at the child being placed, the final placement as a fictive kin, but if it's a guardianship, would you choose guardianship versus final placement with a fictive kin? I think it's a matter of interpretation at this point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. And
Which trumps? Does fictive kin trump guardianship? Does guardianship trump fictive kin?
and I think that's a decision each individual program is going to need to make and have those parameters for themselves as to how they're reporting those.
Mm-hmm.
So National CASA has a final placement as fictive kin separate from adoption and guardianship.
Yes.
Okay.
I know.
mean, I'm
So
just,
like for our
whatever.
program, we would never use that as a final placement type. So that's always going to come up to 0, just because that's never going to be a final placement type for us.
You know, the other thing we could do is actually ask National, why do they use fictive kin? Because maybe
there's
there's
the,
something that
yeah.
we need to look for that they're looking for that we're not.
Yeah.
I don't think that it would hurt to have a point of clarity.
Yeah, I think there's definitely points within our best practices manual here that we can, that we can highlight and be like, this should be changed. This needs to be updated. This is really outdated language here. But in order to use Optima properly for your National CASA survey, for your reporting, it's got to align with the way that they're pulling that data.
Mm-hmm.
Blessings on you all who've had to work through this.
Great conversation though. No, and it's noted here, and we'll see what we can do with getting these, to National CASA. All right, we went through those. Training topics, we did add Michigan CASA State Conference and the National CASA Conference. This is the one part where we're going to need updates made in this drop down. But so we're going to have each of these conferences. And then mental health, substance abuse, and domestic violence had been like one whole line. And we decided to separate each of those out. It just made sense to not put all of those together. So those three are going to be each their own entity, their own marker. So this is one place where everybody will need to go back into their drop-down tables and make that adjustment. Actually, that may not have to happen. I'll tell you why right near the end here. So volunteers. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Pop up if you guys see something. All right. So those are all the drop-down tables. We get to the, make sure I covered everything I want. Yep. Okay, here we go. Just the general things on all the child demographics. All right. Hey, Rachel, are you there? I was going to let Rachel explain. We put this inputting referrals and definitions of active versus assigned children. The language within Optima is a little janky at times, to say the least. So we tried to have definitions here that make sense. So make sure your children aren't, so inputting referrals, make sure your children aren't assigned to a supervisor until they are being served by a volunteer or supervisor. If children are on a wait list for a CASA volunteer, do not enter children into the Optima system with a CASA supervisor unless they're actually working the case, because the report will pull those waiting cases as well. So that happens when you're inputting referrals. And now, Rachel, I'm going to let you go ahead. Let's talk about the active, the active and assigned definitions, which is not easy.
Okay.
So I'm going to let you do it.
I'm just going to do a quick analogy because I apologize, I'm multitasking you all, but I think this relates to the last thing I talked about too. So a lot of what this manual is translating the language that this program uses to the language that we are using. And so there is some disconnect there because computers do not communicate the same way we do. And a lot of this is just logistical because it's how they're pulling this information. And so if we're looking at the two definitions that Optima uses, these are not the definitions that you may use internally in your program. Active is a child who has been referred to the program. They are in your system. A lot of us would call this a child on a wait list, but this child does not have a CASA volunteer assigned to it. That is what Optima defines as active. What they define as assigned is a child who has been referred to the program, is in Optima, and has a CASA volunteer assigned to it. Asterisk there, some of us also assign CASA supervisors to cases. In this case, that's interchangeable. So an active case, you could, if you use the terminology wait list, is going to be very similar to that language. An active case is something that's been referred to your program, but you do not have anyone assigned to with the court order for that case. Assigned is going to be those that have the court order and have someone, whether it's a volunteer or a supervisor, assigned to that case and actively working it, which is where that confusion gets in because the language is not ideal. Questions?
Phenomenal. No questions.
Oh gosh, I nailed that explanation. Yes.
It was really important because we kept going through, are those active? No, I mean, assigned children, are those children, you're actively working don't say the word active. I mean, it was just horrific on trying to deal with this. So these pages were added sort of at the last minute of giving these good definitions as to what they mean. So hopefully that will help. Hopefully that will help. Any questions on that? Awesome. Perfect. We get into referral date, pretty straightforward. Again, assigned to program. So this tracks active children and is where, now this gets confusing because it's assigned to program, but this tracks active children and is where the active report comes from, and the child is not considered assigned to a CASA. Yet this is called assigned to program.
So just to emphasize, yeah, why don't you show them? Do you want to show them visually?
Yes, let me stop sharing. I think the
when
visual.
you're creating your case file and you're inputting a new case, when you fill in what Raquel's about to show you, which is the assigned to program, the key there is it does say assigned to program. So that's the referral. It's not that case is an assigned child, it's an assigned to the program, and that is where that active report is getting pulled from. Talking about the computer logistics and where these match up. So we're gonna visually show you this.
Is this once I add the child?
Yes.
So
right up here, when you're adding in a child, this is a case that's been referred to us. We're adding it in so we can track that this case has been referred. It says, we got the referral date and we assigned it to the program. That's going to be a referral date, whatever date you use. And you may not use language referral date. That's what we use. You might use that's your intake date. You might say that's when you got the order, whatever language you're using. That is where they're tracking and pulling that active child number from. So if your active child numbers aren't accurate, that's the first place you want to go. That's where that is being pulled from. And it is very confusing because it is not even remotely the same language. In fact, it is the opposite.
So assigned to program makes a child active.
Correct.
Got it.
Or on your wait list, or
we're accepting
pending.
them into our program.
But they're not assigned to a volunteer. They're only active in the program.
Very confusing.
Yes.
Melanie, what's your question?
So is assigned, because I was always told that assigned to program is when you've been referred. So are you saying that when the court orders a CASA, obviously you don't have a CASA volunteer at that time because you've just been ordered in the court, then that becomes assigned?
No, but
so
that date, yes, you are correct. That date goes in the assigned to program box. But when you're correlating that to the reporting that we just talked about, this is what makes a child active in your system, but that child is not assigned yet to a CASA case. So when we're pulling those two numbers, that assigned to program should be when you get that referral from the court, if that's the language you're using. That is correct. But this does not mean that the child is assigned a CASA volunteer. It is just when they were assigned to the program, given a referral, inputted into the system, whatever language you want to use for that.
Right, because then when you do pair the child with the CASA, you put the date in there for the CASA's assignment, right? When that court order comes through. And then that can, correct. Because we have to log for United Way, they like to know from referral to actually getting a CASA, they like to know that. So that's how I pull those figures.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And you're spot on with that. And that's actually the next part we talk about in the manual. So they kind of run together, and we're explaining this because on the back end, this is how you guys are going to troubleshoot and get this information as well. So when you assign an actual volunteer to a child, that is when that child is considered assigned. So if you're troubleshooting and you're like, I do not have the correct number of active children, the way to fix that is to check assigned to program date. If you pull a report and you realize I do not have the correct number of assigned children, the way to pull and troubleshoot that is to go check the volunteer assignment date, which is right here. Does that make sense?
Yes? Thumbs up, head shakes?
Can
Just
I
wanna
just
make-
interject something here?
Please
I
do.
think, so many programs do things so differently too. This, in my mind, would be like a wait list, and they would not be entered into our system until they were assigned to CASA. So our wait list, like, we usually don't have one, but if we had a child that was on a wait list, I would just not enter that until I had a CASA to put on there. So I just wanted to mention that in case other programs do that the same way.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Jamie.
Okay.
Some do it the way that you're doing it, and some enter as soon as they get anything, they enter it into Optima.
Cool.
Leave the reports real quick. So the reason this is important for anyone, no matter how you're doing it, is when this comes to our reporting. And that's why we're talking about this. You'll see right under children, we have active children. These are not your assigned children. These are just your active children. So for those of you who are just inputting it as one, this number will be correct. But for those of you that are inputting waitlist cases, this number is inaccurate. So we need to know the difference, and you need to be able to troubleshoot on your end. What's the difference between my active children and my assigned children? For those not using a wait list, that number should be exactly the same when you pull those reports. For those using a wait list, your active children should be higher than your assigned children. Your assigned children should always be lower. And so if you're seeing any changes there, that's going to trigger you to know, okay, something's not tracking correctly. And then we've given you the tools to be able to figure out where you're pulling that data from to then backtrack and make sure all of your correct data is entered.
Okay, when children are assigned to a volunteer, do they also still stay on the active list?
Yes, because
Got
that referred to program date never ever
Got
goes
it.
away. So that number is either going to be the same or higher, no matter how you're doing your program.
Got it.
Correct. Any other questions on this one right now? This is the craziest, hardest part. Are these definitions of report pulling and anything else on this part? Yeah, please go ahead.
So on this that you guys just clicked on, it says active. Where is there a list that says assigned children? I'm looking at my reports and I'm not seeing assigned children.
There is not, what Robert told me to do to pull that is to pull active by supervisor, because then if they've been assigned to a supervisor and child, then they'll show up on that. Like a volunteer has been court ordered to be the CASA, then they're gonna have a supervisor and they should pull up on your assigned by supervisor. There is not an actual like assigned children report.
And that is listed in the Optima manuals, which is again why we're kind of walking through this part in particular, so that you know how to pull both of those reports, regardless of how you're doing your program, whether you use a wait list or not.
Any other questions?
The other option is you could pull like assigned to a volunteer or supervisor if you want that information separated, but if you want all of it in one, active by supervisor is probably your best bet. Yeah.
We'd like to go into Optima and rename everything if we could, but we can't. All right. Okay. Again, this is what we just talked about, right? Assigned date for volunteers and supervisors. This is the exact report that we just talked about. Program and court closure date, those are pretty straightforward. Safe and permanent home checkbox. All right. We made it through child details. Has updates. Okay, got through all that part. Volunteers, again, definitions of active versus assigned volunteers, right? The Optima definition of an active volunteer is a volunteer who's in good standing with the program, meaning they're eligible to take a case, or and is either currently assigned to a case, available to take a case. Oh, pardon me, is either currently assigned to a case, available to take a case, but not assigned. Wait, we have is either sorry. Meaning they're eligible to take a case and is either currently assigned to a case, available to take a case, but not fully assigned, or yes, okay. This again is your wait list. And an assigned volunteer is an active volunteer, and they're actively assigned and working on a case. So here we go. Active. You'll notice in here, the Michigan CASA standard is in here for those who have been inactive for more than a year. And these, you, as well as if you're using the courtesy CASA protocol, those are listed right in here as well. So here's the Michigan CASA standard for returning volunteers. So if they have not had, if it's been 3 years or longer, they must attend the 30-hour pre-service training. For less than 3 years, they must complete the Michigan CASA refresher course. This then goes into the whole, gives you the whole courtesy protocol here. And I just linked it right in so that you didn't have to go somewhere else and open a separate PDF somewhere else. If it's right here contained in this document. So the available checkbox, super simple. Assigned, right? We have them assigned, their initial training date, their sworn date. All right, and reports. These are just some helpful tips when pulling those reports that we made up for you. Definitely, you know, if you're looking through the reports library and you figure out which reports you like and you want to run them often, it's our recommendation that you click on the icon star and make it a favorite. And then those show right up in your favorites button. So that's kind of a nice way to, if you find a couple, 2 or 3 reports that you really like, it's nice to have that favorited. That is our 55 pages of the manual. Is anybody thoroughly confused? Feeling better or worse than when you came to this meeting? So the one thing I wanted to let you know, there are, especially with those drop downs, so with the training topics, we have to make that Michigan CASA State Conference, the national conference, and then the 3 breakouts that we were doing: mental health, domestic violence, and substance abuse. So we'll have to update those drop downs. Linda over at Optima, everybody's done a really good job with all their drop downs. Now what happens is sometimes somebody put a capital letter in, or they misspelled something, or there's an extra space or something along those lines. So when I go to pull reports, those ones that they're all case sensitive. So if everybody's drop down is not exactly perfect matching to what is in this best practices manual, it's going to not pull that number for me for whatever it might be, you know, race or any type of demographic or along those lines. And the original idea was, hey, she sent me all these spreadsheets with all the people who had some errors in theirs and send it back out to everybody and have everybody update them. Instead, what I have her doing is she's going back through everybody's drop downs. And if there's just some, you know, a capital letter that should be a small case, or there's an extra space or a period got put in there or something, she's going to go through and make all those updates on the back end from her end. Yes, I was so happy when she offered that up. Then what will be left is people who have some like really outstanding things that are just not correct. You know what I mean? For example, in the case closure reasons, I just went through and looked at one of these. It's, closed with program before outcome determined. And there's actual other language for that. And it means the same thing, but they didn't update the language like it should be. That's here in this, in the manual. Or remained with parents through life of case. And instead it's like remained with parents. I can't remember the exact wording, but they're off by a bit more than just a letter or a space or something along those lines. So what will happen is when Linda does all the quick and easy stuff and gets that updated, she's going to send me spreadsheets, which then will allow me to reach out to it was only a handful of programs who've got some onesie twosie type things to then go back through and update themselves. When all that's done, those tables will then be locked and you will all be notified. Well, I don't know if it'll happen before I leave or not, but the next person will make sure that everybody is notified before all those get locked down. The nice thing about that then is programs come on, they have no choice, right? They have no choice. Everything is locked, it's there, and everything has to be aligned with it. So does anybody have any questions on that? Does that make sense? Okay. Awesome. If you are one of the people who does maybe have some that are going to need some updates here and there, there's the bulk edit portion of it too. Let's say if you've got 5 or 10 of them that have this different wording that you need to change. You can use the bulk edit portion of it to go through and make all those changes at one time. So if you need help with that, again, you can, do a help ticket. Hopefully, if we have this Google group together, you could maybe ask somebody within the Google group for Optima, hey, how do you do that darn thing again? And we can all help each other out, or Robert or somebody from his team can help walk you through those portions. I feel like we did a lot. It's only an hour, which is awesome. So we do have a whole other hour, but if we finish early, that's great. I'd love to open it now for Q&A and see if people have issues, there's something they've been stuck on, if we can help troubleshoot while we've got all of us here together. So just unmute yourself if you've got a question and ask away. Vicky.
I got one. Yeah. I'm having trouble having my volunteers show up as being assigned a case. So I have some volunteers that I didn't even have that they put in there that was previously with us that have left the whole thing and they're still listed as assigned. But my new people I've been putting in, I'm having trouble having them listed as assigned.
Okay. Raquel, can we bring up the database again and share?
Sure.
All right, so ask your question again, please, Vicki.
Okay, I have assigned a volunteer, and yet when I pull the report to show my assigned volunteers, my active volunteers or whatever it's called, I'm not getting them on there.
Which report are you pulling?
Well, pull up your reports here. I'm pulling active volunteers.
Active volunteer, under volunteers, there we go, yep.
And I've been doing alphabetically, but I'm wondering if I should do it by supervisor.
See what happens. I don't know what this is gonna look like because it's just our like fake. Oh, we do have some volunteers in there. They're not, you have them in the system, but they're not showing up on this report.
Correct.
It might be that you've not assigned them to a supervisor, Vicky, in which case then I don't think it shows up. That's just my thinking, because I think I had a similar problem with a couple. I might not be right, but I'm thinking if you haven't assigned them to a supervisor, then it's just not going to show in your report.
Okay, I'll go back.
Another thing is, I think there's a check box for available. And if that box isn't checked, then they're not going to show up on the available report.
That's what I think too. There's a box that has to be checked in order to have them show on the report.
So they'd have to show up, like right now it says Dawn is not available, so she's not gonna show up on that report because she's not available.
Okay,
But if I go into her, I can click that box and make her available and then she will show up.
all righty, that makes sense.
Awesome. Any other questions that can be answered, hopefully answered right now? You all are experts. I love it.
I have a question.
All right, go right ahead, Melanie.
So when you train new volunteers and you're doing their background checks, is everybody uploading the documents under documents? You know what, you've actually got it up, but if you click on documents, so it's got the background there, but there's no way you can actually upload the document. So are you guys just uploading that?
Yeah, we just put in the information in this section with the dates, and then we upload the actual documents in the document section.
Okay, good. That's what I'm doing too.
That's what we're doing too.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, one of those things, it's like, why would you not be able to upload the document right there with?
I know, I find that a little frustrating.
We're going to help Robert rewrite this. And
Are people successfully sending reference checks through Optima via email through Optima?
Anybody?
I have not figured out how to do that yet.
We haven't done that yet either.
We're not doing that yet either.
No.
Okay, then we're not behind, Carrie. Just figured that out yet. Because yeah, we're having trouble with that too. Okay, thank you.
I found that whole process really confusing when training new volunteers and trying to get them from an inquiry, which I didn't have because I just sent it out myself, into being, you know, into training. I just found that so confusing.
Yeah, we have not been entering people in Optima until we've interviewed them, we've gotten their references, and they're all set up and ready for training. We keep spreadsheets for inquiries.
Okay.
I hope that's okay.
No, yeah, that part's all on your own. So there is via Optima, the beyond the basics is like improving your application process. So let's see. Review application configuration, develop an application review process, and understand application as part of recruiting. Not sure if that's if that particular module would or would not help answer any of those. That is a live webinar though, so you will have, you know, Robert probably, and you could ask him live right then and there while he's got, you know, the system up and in front of you and possibly work through some of that. Who is using the application in Optima, using that? Who is using an Optima application?
We are.
You are.
But I
Okay.
was under the impression everyone was, we were supposed to like.
We had talked about that, but we never made that become the thing.
Who else besides us is using the application through Optima?
Lauren, you are? And I know like Robin has, she had her own application that she made up linked to Optima.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Robin is, and our goal is to have ours up and running by May 1st.
But it's your own application, then that's just or it's using Optima's.
We're going to do Optima
template. Okay, yeah.
our own question. We're asking our own questions in Optima.
Yes, okay, that's what I meant, yes.
And Raquel, you're clear about how to change things in the application. So if we wanted to ask our own questions in Optima, you could help us figure that out?
Maybe. I'll find out. I'll find out. We're gonna
Okay.
try.
Okay.
I do know how to add questions because I have had to do that, Stephanie. And it's a little, I have to guess to make sure I'm in the right spot. And keep that in order, but I do know how to do that if you have questions, because I have done that twice.
Okay. Carrie and I also might want to change some things. I don't know, but maybe those of us that are trying to do this should communicate and say, in a smaller group and say, hey, you guys, because then if other people want to do it, we'll have figured it out and we can help.
Yeah, and I am going to put together or have Patty put together an Optima Google group, or maybe the new person when they come in, put together an Optima Google group, add everybody who, is on there together. And then you can just go on and ask specific questions because not everybody is on Optima yet. And you don't want to McPat and some of those other things. I feel like it would be kind of smart if it was something specific to Optima. You're talking with other people who are using the system and we can help each other out. I think that's a good thing, everybody. Yes, I'm assuming
Yes.
most hands up and yes on that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? How did pulling national CASA? Oh, Melanie, go ahead. I'll answer your question first.
Sorry, if
No.
this is appropriate to ask right now, but so to send them the application, because I know mine is linked because Robert did that for me. If you go into volunteer inquiries and you add somebody in, does it give you the option to send them the application? If anyone's done
I
that.
believe it. I believe it does. I don't know that for sure. How's that? I'm being totally honest, Melanie.
Okay.
You might go back. You might go into the on the end of Optima and sign up for that improving your application process. It's a 50-minute webinar, and they normally have like one every month or so. I think that would be a really good one for anybody who thinks that they've got some questions on the application. It'll at least give you the good baseline of it at first, and then I can't think of the other trainer's name at Optima right now. Somebody else help me. Robert and
Katie.
Kate. Yes, Katie. Thank you. One of those two do most of those webinar trainings, and they're live. So you're not just watching a recording, you're getting somebody live and they can, interact with you. So that might be a place to start just to kind of get that baseline again on it and then go from there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Wasn't there a committee that was put together about the application process?
Yeah, we had started to think about asking everybody to do that the same way. And then it was just, it's too much. Everybody wanted different language and different things. And we decided, each local program needs to do that the way that they want to do that. That's nothing that we pull data from or reporting from. It might be that we, biannually or maybe annually near the end of the year and say, so how many new volunteers did you get? How many volunteers did you have all together? Because, which is one of the things, the emails that went out, I think from myself or Patty, because we update our 1-page flyer with, how many volunteers did we have for the year and things of that nature. There's certain questions that we will ask you probably once a year, and then you can just go in and pull the report yourself. But those are not demographics or pieces of data that I can get on the back end with our own reporting system through Optima. How is everybody's entering, all their 2024 cases, everybody's using Optima and getting all their cases entered, right? If you still have some things to catch up with in 2023, you're going to want to do that ASAP and get those 2024 ones in. They're going to be pulling data quarterly. And then, well, they'll be pulling it monthly, but then quarterly reporting will be happening to the Michigan CASA board on a dashboard that I created. And it shows lots of cool stuff. So any other questions from anybody? If not, then I think we're in great shape. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for your questions. Again, if you have a piece of knowledge that, is helpful to somebody else, please share it with them. It makes it so much easier for all of us. So, and my last day with Michigan CASA is March 15th. So I will miss you all. I love you all. Thank you. You guys have an awesome network. I
will be missed.
Oh, thank you. I will be onboarding hopefully somebody new here soon and trying to get them, as caught up as I can. And that's why I wanted to get this whole manual out and have this meeting, and then get Linda behind the scenes catching up as much as we can, and hopefully have those drop downs locked and really make it easy for onboarding new programs and new people and things of that nature. So if there's no more questions, I think we are all set then. Thank you all. Oh, there's a chat. Somebody in the chat. Is this an old one? Oh, you would be greatly missed. Oh, thank you, Erica. So, all
Thank you,
right.
Jennifer.
Well, it's 3:12. We did so good. I'm so excited. And thank you again to my work group, Raquel and Rachel and Jamie and Carrie, Robin, who wasn't here, and Kate, who wasn't here. But oh man, as you can see, this was not an easy piece of work. So I'm sure there's some mistakes in there. So just let us know as you're reading through it, or something's not quite right in it. Let us know so that we can keep fine tuning it in and make it the best manual it can be. So
please know that we really appreciate the efforts, because you didn't have to do this. So to the committee, I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
I agree.
Tremendously with me.
Yeah,
Especially
hopefully it's helpful. I mean, it should be helpful. So
very much so. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Take care.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yes.
I just have a crazy question. Do you have a second, or do you want me to call you?
Oh, no, you're fine. Go right ahead.
Okay. Oh, I don't know who this Rachel is. Okay. So I have one more oh wait, are we still recording?
Oh, we are. Let me look at your queue.